everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kristy and today we are doing a project that's called Crafting with Kristy. So I'm really excited to have you here. This is a brand new series where once a week we are going to tackle a DIY craft project together, you and I. So if you have any questions about anything that I am discussing during this particular video, be sure to just mention them in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. And while you're there, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so you get future notifications when I post a new video. So what I find is a lot of us have books laying around. Books that we've already read or books that people have given us, and a lot of times we don't want to throw them out, but we don't really want to display them so that these ugly, bold, covers stand out. I actually went out to my local thrift store and I grabbed 5 hardcover books. The thrift store that I was at had 5 hardcover books for $10. I thought you couldn't go wrong, but I definitely did my best to pick hardcover books, not based on what the content was, but more so on what the color of the book is. So even if you just did that simple step on removing a couple of the protective sleeves here, getting rid of those, and you have 3 books together, even that looks better than it did before. But you don't think we're going to stop there. We're going to go a little bit more complicated and have a little bit more fun. So I started with some of the projects over here yesterday. I decided to get a head start just to save you and I some time. We used her book here and I didn't even paint this book. This is actually the soft off-white color that it came in. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to enhance it a little bit. And I did that using our Prima Molds. So this is redesigned by Prima. If you are a Canadian viewer, you will be able to click the arrow button down below and find links to buy these here in Canada. We do sell them at my store called Next Time Around, but we also can give you links to, if you are from the United States or the UK or Australia, wherever, we will have a link for you to be able to buy these as well. I can't say enough about the good quality of the Prima redesigned products, and again, we're going to be playing with these molds. And I have a tip for you on how to get a really good mold, so just stay tuned for that as well. And one of the things that you could do that Prima Redesign carries is something called paper clay. And that is a product that you just kind of roll in your hand a little bit. It's literally paper clay, and you push it down easily, press it into the mold. It's air dry clay, so you don't have to bake it. A couple days later, it dries really hard. You can pop it out. Actually, you can pop it out almost right away and let it air dry, and then you can enhance your project. So you can do that, of course, but there's even a faster way. And I don't know if you can tell that on the camera, but we used our hot glue gun. Okay, so you can do this exact project using these molds with hot glue. They are actually oven safe up to 500 degrees, so they can for sure withstand the heat that you may see in actually applying hot glue to it. So I find this super affordable to be able to do, and again, super fast, because you and I both know hot glue dries fast. And I don't want to wait a day or two for my paper clay to dry. The paper clay also shrinks a little bit, and the thing with the hot glue is it's pliable afterwards. So if you happen to want to make some of this decorative trim to put on a piece of furniture and you want to wrap it around the leg, you can definitely take some really good quality glue, tape it around till it dries, and you can paint it. So again, we are going to start with something simple like this. I made these flowers, and that's what I want to show you how to do. So I've got my handy dandy glue gun. This is available at Michael's, so you can again go in the drop down menu and see this. I love this Art Minds one because it has a super fine tip, but for this project, not necessary. I'm gonna actually do one of the bigger flowers because I think that would be a little bit more complicated than something simple. I'm just gonna start in the middle, and I am melting the glue all the way around like that, okay? I'm just gonna keep going. Now, to have this work super well, it is best if you just keep going in one area like this. Because I find if you can actually just go slow and steady, as they say, that works the best. Okay, so I'm just finishing off going around the edges to make sure I've got that fairly full. I don't want to have it overly full. I just want to have it fairly full. And again, the nice thing with the hot glue is it does level out. If I fill this and I feel like, oh my gosh, that didn't level in, or if you don't use hot glue, you know how there's low heat glue guns? This works best with the actual high heat glue. However, if you do it with the low one, it's gonna take you a long time. And what might happen is that it just starts to dry before it settles down. This is a little tip that I discovered. When I thought about it, I was like, hey, these are oven safe, and they're oven safe because they're food grade. So I thought, hey, why don't I just fill them with glue, and even if they didn't self-level, I threw a couple of them on a cookie sheet. I put them in my oven at 350 degrees, I mean maybe 5 minutes. All the glue re-liquefied and it resettled down, gave me virtually no air bubbles, smooth surface, took them out, they dried, perfect. And that's what all of these are. So I did these again, I reheated them in my oven. Here is this mold. So actually if I just stick this down in here, that's what that looked like. When I had it actually go in the oven, it got re-liquefied and then took it out, it hardened, and it's perfect. So now you can see it will change color as I start to pop that out. And that's all dry, and there you have the perfect little flower. And if you do happen to get little edges that have had extra glue on them, a sharp X-Acto knife, you literally can go around and just, again, you be careful when you're working with a sharp X-Acto knife, but you can just quickly cut those off. So if you found that there was something that, again, went over the edge that you didn't really want to go over the edge, I can just cut those off. So they're back to this project from here. What I'm going to do is that we applied some of these embellishments to this book. Now what I did is, you of course could use hot glue to do that, but I am a fan of the E6000. And I'm going to just do an example with this to start. So I'm just going to set this aside. So this is actually one of those faux books. So this is the little secret spot that you can hide stuff in, set it away, and nobody really knows. So this actually was fabric. It had a lovely flamingo on it. It wasn't really my style, so I painted it blue in a nice fusion mineral paint color called Champness that you can see up there. 2 coats is all it took, and it was super fast to do, but I let it dry, which again dried fairly quickly. And now what I thought would be cute, because this is a little box, is I wanted to add an embellishment of a keyhole. So again, with the molds, one of them you can get is an assortment, and there's quite a few to choose from, of keyholes. So you can go and pick a really cute keyhole, put your hot glue in it, and now I'm going to use a little bit of the E6000, and I am just going to apply a little bit of a bead of that on there. And E6000 takes a little bit to dry, so I kind of do a double whammy and add a little bit of hot glue as well. So the hot glue helps it dry fast, but of course you've got the sticking power. I just find the E6000 is a more durable glue. So I just put a little hot glue on there, right to the side, kind of where logically a little keyhole would be on this book. So I've got that there. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and we can paint right over that. So I'm going to just use a little artist brush, and I am just going to paint that. And again, the paint sticks right on top of that glue. So this will blend in seamlessly. I mean, it's so easy, it couldn't be easier than that. Next up, what I want to do is, we talked about this book. We already added the embellishments. So what I want to do to this one is paint it gray. So I'm using, again, in this video, I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint. I love them for painting furniture because it's the quality, but I also love them for all my DIY projects. So I'm just going to take a little paintbrush. This is a 1-inch synthetic fusion brush, and I'm using a color called Little Lamb. And I can paint right on top of this paper book, right on top of this little flower. Try to do that so that you can see it here. And I don't want to paint the pages. You can. If you paint the pages, just know that you will never really be able to open that book for any reason. So a lot of people do paint the pages. This painting books is not a brand new thing. I have to say, I did not invent this idea. You can find some other tutorials. What I just tried to do is be a little bit creative in how we embellish them. And I just love being able to utilize the Prima Molds, with the hot glue and how fast and how easy that is. I just want to let that dry. We'll have that there. Even if we just left it at that, that looks so great as a decor object in your living room or on a bookshelf. There's just so many different options. Okay, now what we're going to do is I want to work with this book. So I'm going to work with a Fusion Mineral Paint product called Pearl Embossing Paste. Love it! You can take stenciling to the next level when you are working with this product. So a little goes a long way, so I'm just going to open this up and I'm just going to take a little cup here and my spatula. So again, this is available at Michael's. I'll put a link to those there as well. A little goes a long way, so just take a little bit out. You can use a popsicle stick for this part as well. And what you can do is I can use this pearl embossing paste just as is. It is a white pearlized color, but you can also add paint to it. So what I'm going to do is, since I have the gray paint, I'm trying to coordinate all these together if you haven't noticed. I am going to put just a little bit of paint in with my pearl embossing paste. We are just going to stir that together. Now, just to clarify, the Fusion paint does not come in these lovely little FIFO bottles. We're back in the workshop space here at Next Time Around, and we use them that way just so we can get the paints out of the cans very easily or out of the little containers. They actually come in containers this size, little pints, so super easy. Okay, mix that all up. So now I have gray pearlized embossing paste. You can do this with any color, but again, you can leave it pearl, so it depends on what you want to do. But I want to distress this later, so I want it to be a contrasting color. Now what you do is you take a stencil. So I am going to use this stencil. It's like a damask sort of stencil on there. Again, this one comes in a couple different sizes. These ones I believe are available for Margaritaville. I will definitely post the link to that. One thing I want to do is, because I want to not have that pearl embossing paste go right on this edge where the book opens, I'm just taping that off, just so that it doesn't hit there. You will notice a lot of times I just wing it, I don't take things off, but in this case I don't want that paste to get there. And now I'm just going to center this into the middle of the book, just trying to see where the edges and everything are. Again, I think this visually looks better if it is actually centered on there. So using that same spatula, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this embossing paste and I am going to push it into my stencil. Now I don't want my stencil to lift because I don't want it to slide under. And even if this wasn't super duper perfect, not a big deal because we're painting on top of it. So I'm just pushing this into the stencil.
It's like the texture of icing.
Yeah, it is kind of like the texture of icing. Okay, now I have a little bit of flexibility with what I do at this point. I can give it nice smooth area like that. I can also, it's kind of like spackling it a little bit. I can kind of even take this and hit it so that it gets all little, like, you know how ceilings in the olden days used to be? That popcorn ceiling? I'm gonna actually do that to give it some rise it up just a little bit. Just like that. You can also squish up a plastic bag, stick it on there and pull it off. It just gives it lots of different texture. But watch this as Jackie shows you this reveal. I am just going to lift this. I don't have to wait for this to dry. Just going to lift that off. And look at that. We'll set that down over there. And I'm going to get rid of this. This is why I wanted to tape it so it didn't go on that spine. And I'll just remove this tape and I will turn that around for you. Look at that. So now we have a raised stencil and it's so pretty. And again, you're looking at that going, what about that big blue mark? When that's dry, I'm gonna paint over the whole thing. So you won't notice that. And it dries pretty quickly. You can also force dry it with a hair dryer, but I did this one yesterday. So this is one of those photo books. So you know how it's like a photo album book, and it had a lot of, as you can see, burgundy and dark green, all these colors, which are pretty, but they had that on the cover. Again, with the aesthetic that we are going for, I didn't want it that color. So I painted the whole thing, a couple coats of our white fusion paint in a color called Casement, And then you can kind of see them through there a little bit. I did a couple of these stencils. I let that dry, and I did this in a blue color. So the same color that I used to paint this, I actually used my blue and tinted the embossing paste, did the same technique, spatula it on, lifted it off, let it dry, and then I applied another coat of the white on top of that once it was dry. And that's where we're at right now. And I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and I am going to distress this. And as I do that, because the stencil is raised, you are seeing some of that blue come through. Is that not pretty? And I'm gonna get that flower in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to get this side up here. You can take as much of the paint off as you want, or leave as much of it on there as you want. It's up to you. Again, this is just making it a little bit more shabby. And so it's coordinating together. I'm bringing out some of this blue color to coordinate with the other books. There we go. So I'll just kind of dust that off a little bit. And we have just made it a little bit more of a pretty coffee table book now, this photo album. Now this needs to go. So I want to just see if I can kind of pop this open a little bit. Yeah, and oh, it was taped inside. Well, that's easy peasy. And what I did, and I did this ahead of time, is I got a little bit of white ribbon because I think the white ribbon would match way better. And I am just going to get my glue gun ready, and I am going to take it, make sure my satin side is up. Set that back down. Try to get it in the middle of the book here. And now I'm just going to put some glue, hot glue down inside this. Again, this tiny little nozzle with the fine tip helps being able to get it in all those little areas. And we're back. So we just took a few moments to further embellish and finish painting and letting the books dry. So to start with, this little secret book box, so the one with the little hidden cavity in between, if you recall, we added a little bit of an embellishment on there using our redesign with Prima Molds and the hot glue. And I made, like I said, that faux keyhole, and we just glued that on, and then I painted it blue to correspond with the background color that we painted this box in. And then just to give it a little bit of embellishment, I added some twine and a vintage skeleton key. So I think that looks just kind of cute. And then with this book, if you recall, we painted that, we left that originally the book color, and we added some of the redesign with Prima Molds. Again, we did the flower, and I did the spine with a little bit of, I guess it's almost like a border that we did. And then what I did is I painted the whole thing gray, again, did that on the video, and I did a white glaze effect over top of that. That just brings out some of the beautiful details that you can see here. And then, if you recall, this is the book that we did together. So had painted that and then slightly distressed that, and we changed that red ribbon to a white ribbon. So again, these look nice piled together should you want, or just on display. But I also continued to work with the books that we were working on. So this book was that light green color. There's no light green left on it now. And what we had done, as you recall, we glued using the E6000 glue and a little bit of hot glue, some of those roses and some of the buds kind of on there. We glued a piece on the spine of this book as well, and I painted the whole thing in a couple coats of our Fusion Mineral paint in a color called Casement, which is white. And I'm going to show you how to glaze this book, and then this one is finished drying. So I showed you how we can use the pearl embossing paste. We tinted that gray. I had to remember what color we tinted that. And I let that dry, and now I've put a really pale blue color called Little Whale over top of that, and I'm going to sand and distress that one as well. And then we've got 5 books. So if you recall at the beginning of this video, I had mentioned that we were able to get 5 hardcover books for $10. So for $10, I just wanted to show you how you can upcycle these products. So let's start with lightly distressing. So this is probably about probably a 180 grit sandpaper, so it is a little strong. Now the paint's only been dry on here for maybe a half hour to an hour, so by no means is it cured, but it is dry. And so I'm going to lightly distress to reveal that gray color underneath. And you're even going to see a little bit of the white that may have been on there from the first coat too. So I'm just going to, again, give it a little bit more of a distressing. I think I wanted a little bit more distress. And there we go. So that was just a quick little way of adding a little bit of detail. So if you had this sitting on your coffee table or on an end table or on a bookcase, you've just given it a little bit of character. However, you can still read this book because I deliberately did not paint any of the pages. And then with this one, let's talk about glazing. So Fusion Mineral Paint makes a clear glaze, and a clear glaze means you can tint it with any paint color that you want, and you don't need a lot. So I'm just going to lift this off, and I'm going to use the little gray container that I was using earlier, and a little goes a long way. So I'm just adding a little dollop of this clear glaze. It does look white. It is white right now, but it dries clear, and you really only need approximately 1 part paint to 4 parts glaze or so. So I just put a little bit of that in there, and you see how my lovely clear glaze is now gray glaze. Super easy to do, and even this is way more than I would need for this book. And I'm just going to take this paintbrush, and I am going to get inside, and I can be pretty sloppy with this because we're going to wipe some of that off. And we are going to just dampen this down with a little bit of water because I want it to just not be too dry. And I am going to wipe this gray paint down so that it's staying in the grooves, but it's bringing out all the detail on these flowers. And it gives it old world charm. In this case, it's starting to look almost like stone, eh, Jackie?
Yeah, it does. That's a lovely texture.
So I'm just trying to get in all those areas. I'm going to go to the spine and just go to a different spot on here. And again, I'm kind of wiping it off of all of the high areas, and that gray glaze is now staying in the grooves. Now, why we do it with glaze and not just with paint is because the paint dries so fast, the glaze gives it a little bit more open time. So there's more room for us to play with it a bit. And I can take off as much or as little as I want. And that is another embellished book. So again, this is 5 books, all hardcover. $10 was the total I invested in the actual books themselves. And we'll just set that here, and this is our pile. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments below. And again, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you get future notifications when we do another video. We'll see you next time, and happy painting.